Most of us have eaten bread, like bread, but I'm going to tell you what kind of bread you should avoid if you want to actually protect your health and what you should be eating instead.
Stop. If you just grabbed whole wheat bread thinking you made the healthy choice, you need to watch this before your next sandwich.
The problem that starts is because most of them are mass produced, factory made, ultra processed foods.
If you've ever stood in the bread aisle completely confused by labels like multigrain, ancient grain, or 12 grain, you're in exactly the right place. Because almost none of those words mean what you think they mean. Dr. William Lee, the Harvard-trained physician who discovered that food can literally regrow blood vessels and starve cancer cells, just broke down which breads are quietly spiking your blood sugar like candy, and which boring loaf might actually be repairing your gut bacteria while you sleep. The answer is not what 99% of health blogs tell you.
The traditional white bread, you've probably heard about that used in a derogatory sense. Hey, that white bread. Well, the white bread that most of us grew up with, missing this opportunity for crucial health using a dietary fiber for our metabolism to lower inflammation of chronic disease. All right. So you actually want that dietary fiber missing in factory made bread. That factory bread often has added sugar. What am I talking about? Most breads don't taste that sweet. Yeah, but if you actually look at the ingredients, so anytime you take that plastic package, that sleeve, go and pick it up and look in the ingredients. And I bet you'll actually find in a lot of different choices of products, you'll find sugar added in there somewhere. Why do you need some sugar? All right, you need that much sugar. Well, factories will add the sugar, of course, to make the bread taste a little bit better, but it's kind of an unnecessary ingredient, right? You're not going to get that in a rustic French bakery or Italian bakery. All right. So, whenever possible, try to avoid added sugar. What I'm telling you is that, like, you have choices. That's the key thing. And so, rather than go for the plastic sleeves, go for the fresh bake that doesn't actually have added sugar. You know by now, added sugar, if you have too much of it, contributes to insulin resistance. And bread is like a gigantic carb anyway, loaf of carbs. All right. So why would you want carbs on carbs? If you do this too much, it's going to overwhelm your metabolism. All right. And, there's a long tradition where people are actually serving bread with some meals. There's nothing really wrong with that, but it's the amount and what's in the bread that can make the difference. So if you overload carbs into your body, you're going to start to grow excess body fat. And excess fat is inflammatory, which then sets you up for chronic disease. So, all right. That's one of the reasons why we're always trying to be very, very careful about the carbs that we're choosing to eat and how much and what else is in there. So think about it. Bread made in a factory could be made somewhere far away from wherever you live. It's got to be packaged, all right, in that plastic sleeve and sealed. And it's going to go into a truck. And then it's going to be driven to a store or put onto a train or maybe even an airplane. And then once it arrives at the store, it's going to be stored in the back until it's time to stock the front of the store. It's brought to the shelf. It sits there for as long as it needs to, maybe days, maybe week, maybe longer than a week. All right. And that's what these additives are there for. Not just to make the bread taste good, but they put additives to make that bread last a long time. All right. And by the way, these additives are now becoming more and more clear with research that they can interfere with your gut microbiome. Again, gut microbiome, good gut health, good brain health, good heart health. You start messing with your gut microbiome with unnecessary ingredients, that's a risk you shouldn't take. All right. So those are reasons why you don't want to have mass produced factory made bread. All right.
One of the best bread.
Sourdough bread. One of my favorite breads. All right. Now, this is a very, very traditional, old medieval style bread. Okay. And come in a loaf. It's kind of brown on the outside. It's got little cracks on it. Cut it open. Kind of crusty on the outside. Cut it open. You smell it inside. It smells really great. It's got a little tangy flavor to it. All right. I'm going to explain to you. The tanginess is what makes it really good. Because it's a bread that's made with a starter bacteria that's healthy. That's called Lactobacillus reuteri. L. reuteri, lactobacillus. Now, what is Lactobacillus reuteri? It's a healthy bacteria that used to be found in all of our guts. It's a healthy gut bacteria. It's also found in food product, different kinds of food products. But researchers have actually discovered, and I'm one of those researchers, that Lactobacillus reuteri can actually help to fight tumors from growing. It boosts your immune system and gets your immune system strong. It actually lowers inflammation. All right. All the things that good, healthy gut bacteria does helps you heal from the inside out. We did a research experiment, a collaboration with the scientists at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where we had full thickness wounds on the back of these lab mice, and you just had them drink water that had Lactobacillus reuteri just in the water. And guess what? Compared to the mice that were just drinking plain distilled water, if there was a probiotic with Lactobacillus reuteri in the drinking water, it doubled the rate of wound healing, and it ups the production of the protein growth factor that helps those healthful, useful blood vessels growing that would actually seal the wound shut. All right. So good for healing. All right. Lactobacillus reuteri. That's actually the starter bacteria used in sourdough bread. And by the way, Lactobacillus, right? What does it do? It makes lactic acid, and lactic acid is kind of tangy. And that's so Lactobacillus reuteri making lactic acid is what makes sourdough tangy, right? Really, really important that the same bacteria is used for sourdough bread is actually useful for our immune defenses. That also helps fight off bacteria, infections, and tumor growth. Oh, you know what? There was some other interesting research on Lactobacillus reuteri that showed that it actually slows down cellular aging, okay, by improving telomere length and slowing down aging of skin, for example. It actually made hair grow more robustly and faster, right? So that was kind of a surprise in research. This is lab research. Give lab mice Lactobacillus reuteri to eat, they're going to grow hair faster, more hair. And guess what they're going to grow? Their hair that grows is shinier hair, better texture, looks better, looks healthier. Pretty cool. And so that's another reason why eating Lactobacillus reuteri or foods made with it like sourdough bread can actually be really, really helpful.
Sourdough bread, fermented the traditional way, contains a specific bacteria called Lactobacillus reuteri. In early research, this strain has been studied for its ability to inhibit the growth of cancer cells. Let that sink in. The bread your grandmother thought was just old-fashioned might be doing something modern science is still trying to fully understand. And it's not just about bacteria. In a clinical trial on overweight men, scientists tested 5 different breads, white, sourdough, and 3 multigrain varieties to see which one spiked blood sugar the least. The fancy-sounding 12-grain and 11-grain breads, the ones that look the healthiest on the shelf, their glucose response was actually higher than sourdough and even white bread in part of the study. Meanwhile, sprouted grain bread was the only one that consistently lowered the glucose response compared to the others. So, the bread with the most impressive sounding label on the package might be tricking your body the same way a donut does.
Now, here's something you got to be careful about. Again, when you're actually going to the grocery store to get factory-made sourdough bread, should you get that or not? All right? Because that also comes in a plastic sleeve sometimes. You can get the sourdough version. And the answer is be very, very careful because some factory-produced sourdough breads are trying to save time and save money. They don't use Lactobacillus reuteri. They don't. It's just not a genuine sourdough bread. You know what they do to give that tangy flavor? They just make white bread. They add a little vinegar to it, give it that slightly tangy, sour taste to it. Now they call it sourdough bread because, well, it's a little sour. You skip the Lactobacillus reuteri step. More expensive, takes longer. They cut those corners. Guess what? You don't get the good stuff. This is why, you're not going to see Lactobacillus reuteri on the side of the package. All right, that's just a starter they use for the dough. But if you see vinegar or acetic acid in the ingredient label, watch out. You're being hoodwinked. Those are not the real sourdough bread. All right. In any case, I personally avoid factory made breads whenever I can. All right.